Welcome to So Very Easy. My name is Laura, and Prairie Points have been around a long time. And still today, they're very popular. But it's no wonder. They're very quick and easy to make, and they really add a lot of dimension and a lot of fun to whatever you put them on. A prairie point is a triangle, but the triangle has been made with fabric that has been pressed. You start with the square, fold it in half, and along the top edge where the fold is, you fold down to the center. So all of the raw edges are along the bottom and all of the folds are up at the top. This is a prairie point. It doesn't matter what size, it's still considered a prairie point. Here's an example of a table topper, and all of these pieces around the outside are prairie points. It's been made with a big center of fabric with the points coming out. You can also do projects where you start right in the center, so the entire project is all prairie points. Leaving a big spot open in the center gives you a chance to fussy cut fabric or do embroidery. If you start right in the center and go out, you don't have to worry about your center fabric. You can turn a circular shape into a square like this pin cushion, and it has all of these little prairie points around the outside. So there was only 8 prairie points in this project. You can start your prairie points with odd numbers and even numbers. Today I'm going to make the folded star hot pad. All these little points are prairie points. This pattern comes with a piece of interfacing that has been printed. This interfacing helps us line up all the prairie points, and it keeps everything stabilized. The other thing it does is it helps us so that we don't have to sew until the entire project is all put together. I'm going to start with 4 colors. I want the main fabric, the focal fabric, to be the last border. If you lay out your fabric with the last fabric that you want to use, or the focal fabric first, put your fabric in a row, and this will give you an idea on how it's going to look. Then you get to make your prairie points. For this particular project, you're going to start with 1 2-inch square. The first row is going to need 4 small prairie points. And each prairie point started with a 3.5-inch square. Each additional layer, you are going to need 8 prairie points, and we start with a 5-inch square. There are a few different ways you can make these prairie points. Because I need 5-inch squares, I'm going to cut a long strip at 5 inches and then cut 5-inch squares. Start with that square, fold it in half, and press. From there, you need to find the center, fold it in half, and then in half again, so that these top points are going into the center. And press. It looks really nice if you get a nice sharp point up at the top. Doesn't matter what size square you start with, this is how you make your basic prairie point. You can also get a little tool that helps you find that center and press that point. It's a little metal ruler, but this ruler is not designed to be cut with, it's designed to be ironed on. Because I started with a 5-inch square, I'm going to find my 5-inch mark along the bottom, so my point's going to be right up at the top. I can now take the iron and press in one direction, hold that down a bit, and press in the next direction. This does get hot, so it's nice if you put a little ribbon on it so you can slide it out. You can repress it if you want, but the metal is so thin you really don't need to. If you're making a whole pile of these, all different colors, having them individual squares to start off with works great. But you can also do it in a strip method. Take that long 5-inch strip, fold it in half, and press the entire strip. Once that whole strip is pressed, you're going to be able to cut these apart in segments. The width of the strip is going to be the width of the block. So I started with a 5-inch strip. I need to cut 5-inch segments. Doing it this way, all of my first fold is done for me. I now can take this to the iron and press my prairie points. A few things to keep in mind. It's important to fold so that the point is along that fold. If you do it in the other direction, you will have those raw seams down the center. A nice sharp point looks great, and the folds should just match, not overlap and not have a big gap. We're going to put them all on this foundation. We're going to need a little bit of glue. First thing we need to do is glue that 2-inch square right in that center mark. You don't need a lot of glue, just enough to hold it on, because when it's all done, everything is going to be stitched down. The next thing, you're going to see these long lines coming out. The long lines are going to match that fold. We're going to glue on the 4 prairie points onto layer 1. And we're going to use those cross lines as a guide. Because we have 4, we're going to do the 2 90-degree angles. Just put a little bit of glue onto the back, line it up so that that straight line is coming all the way. You can even get a ruler to make sure that that fold is going straight. The next one, a little bit of glue. We're going to put it on that first round, matching up that 90-degree mark. The second one, following that straight line, and the third. The center square is now all covered, but as you're stitching, if you have anything that moves, you're not going to notice it. All 4 of those points should line up right in the center. The first row is done. The next row of prairie points is going to go on layer 2. I'm going to be able to line up that opening with all of those straight lines. Now there are 2 ways you can put these on. You can put the 4 corners on and then put the other 4 corners on. This is going to give you a layer of the bottom and the top. And as you continue, you're going to continue having a bottom, top, bottom, top. Or you can do one at a time and just go all the way around. All the lines are still going to match up. You're going to match up that bottom and you're matching up that layer 2. So they're making a pinwheel shape. For the last one, place it on and then take that very first tip and flip it down. So now it is a continuous pinwheel. Both systems work fine. I'm going to do the 4 corners and then the other 4 corners on top of each other. There are so many different lines on this template. You don't have to do the second row right on line 2. You can change the lines, and that's going to make your points go off. Let me show you with the next row. There's my first 4 corners done. The next corners I'm going to change. I'm not going to follow that same line. I can have it come slightly up, and I can have it come down. So you can see where those center points come in more, and the outside ones come out. So because you have so many lines, you're going to be able to change it, but you'll only be able to change the first few rows because there's only 4 rows. I'm going to put these on row 2. With just a little bit of glue, I'm going to stick them down. I have my final row to do, and because I've done the 4 corners and the 4 corners, I'm going to continue that. Now we can sew it. Put a good strong needle on like a denim. You're going to be able to stitch through those folds all the way right to the end. You can move the folds out of the way if you would like. That's going to secure all of these pieces down. By stitching in between all of those lines, I now have all of those center lines stitched. The next decision is going to be the shape. You can make it into a circle, or you can make it into a hexagon. Once you've decided which shape you want, you can bring this to the machine and stitch it so that the interfacing is facing you. Just stitch a scant line into the pattern. So if you want the hexagon, you'll just stitch slightly inside. That's going to catch the fabric from the outside and secure those ends. As you are stitching, be sure you don't stitch the ends open. So stitch all the way around. Once that row of stitching has secured all of the ends down, You can turn it over and trim. You're going to trim off all of the little dog ears. Now I can layer it and quilt it and leave that stabilizer on. I'm going to layer a thin piece of batting and my backing fabric. The second, third, and fourth row need to be stitched down. Just follow the points and stitch. Press it a little bit with an iron. It's going to help stitch through all of those layers. All those little points have been stitched down. One more row of stitching around the outside to hold all of the layers together. Then you can trim that off. If you're going to hang this up, there are directions for a hanging loop. There are also directions for binding, but you can use your favorite way of binding. You can still see all of the dimension of the Prairie Points, but it makes it nice and strong. It's really nice stitching over top of the stabilizer. It helps stabilize the fabric, and it has all of the measurements already drawn on. So we don't have to do any math, and there's no drawing. We just glue and stitch. You can also buy refill packages. So you buy the pattern once, and you can get refills. You can buy the paper, and you can also get a template. So if you want to draw your own, so that you can put some stars into quilts and different table runners of your own pattern. So regardless if you're going to put Prairie Points on pin cushions, pot holders, or big, bold table runners, they're fun to do. I'll put a link in the description so you can check them out. Thank you for joining me today on Sew Very Easy. Feel free to subscribe, and as always, come on back. Let's see what we're sewing next time in the sewing room. Bye for now.